Welcome to the Life Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson. A couple of clean comedians here to support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. They'll talk about highs and lows and some traumatizing shows. So get ready, get set, let's go! All right. Welcome to the Life Support Podcast. I am your host, June Colson, here with my amazing, funny friend and fellow host, Michele VanDusen.
Woohoo! Clap, 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 clap,
Yay,
clap. Everyone's
yay,
excited. Yay!
It's June and Michele. So, Michele VanDusen, how
Yes.
you doing, my friend? You good?
I'm really good. This week I'm kind of excited because I get to pull out my comedy routine again. I get to prep and get ready for some shows next week.
Nice.
Which I haven't been able to say in a year. So it's really exciting. But at the same time, it's nerve-wracking.
It really is like starting over, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's definitely like starting over. And I heard you talking about how you were going to go back and watch some of your videos. And I know some comedians that are like, oh, I never take myself. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it when it's over. I can't go back to it. And early on, one of the pieces of advice I was given was audio and video anytime that you can. Like if you're somewhere where it's not appropriate to videotape, you should audio. And I've done that. I've done that every time. And the first time after COVID hit and things shut down, and when I was able to do a show for the first time afterwards, there was a couple of things about it. One, it helped me remember my material. I went, and then I listened to one of the good recordings, not one that didn't have laughter, but I listened to one of the good recordings, and it helped me just have a little bit of a confidence, just hearing not just my jokes, but hearing positive responses to it made me go, okay, I'm going to be okay. I've done this before. People laugh, it's good stuff, but I can't imagine never recording. Do you always record yourself? Do you always audio or video record yourself?
No, I tried to, and then sometimes I just, like a battery runs out, or for a while my phone, because I would have my phone with me, so I'd hit record. For some reason, it didn't like recording anymore for a while. So I tried to listen to it. It was like all just fuzzy. I'm like, this is not good. And then one time when I had an opportunity to do like 5 minutes for a very well-known comedian, and she invited me up on stage. I'm like, this is going to be so exciting. I handed my phone to my friend. I'm like, would you record? She's like, yeah, absolutely. Well, she hit the button wrong. So she got me walking up the steps, turned it off while I was up there. So missed all the laughter, all the fun, and then turned it back on when I was walking down the steps. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Oh, no.
That was the best performance of my life. Like the crowd, it was like, 2,500 or whatever. I mean, because it was a huge crowd and you could just hear the laughter, and it was so much fun. And I got my feet. That was it. And it was, that was really disappointing. But now I have a story to be like, always record if you can, always, and bring extra batteries. That's a huge tip. Bring extra batteries every time. Yeah, it's important. It's really important.
And there's so many devices now too that you can. My husband got me. I think it's a gimbal or a Kimball or a thimble or something. I don't know, but you put my phone on it, and like if I have time before a show, I can go on stage. Church shows, this is very good for. If you're in a club, you don't have the opportunity really to potentially set it up like this. But the last church show I went to, I was able to set up a tripod, put my cell phone on this gimbal, Kimball, thimble thing, and Rumpelstiltskin. So I put it on there, and then it basically tracks you. So it focuses in on me, and then as I walk, the tripod, the actual like gimbal thimble thingy, it moves back and forth, and it like follows my movement on stage.
That's
And
very cool.
yeah, so for me, starting out, I would get really good audio or I get really good video, but I never had both. So when people are like, "Oh, you gotta have audio," you need a clip so you can send to people to book you and those kind of things. And
Yeah.
like my very first time on stage, we talked about this. Angie Stubbs from Alaska, she
Yes.
taped me upside down and laughed through the whole thing. So that was awesome. But I'm like, I can't send that to anybody, right? Like that's not gonna work. But I think it's a great idea. Why do you think some people don't want to audio or videotape themselves?
That is a really great question. I think sometimes at the very beginning, you're unsure of yourself. And so if, like, oh, I hate listening to myself or I hate watching
Mhm.
myself on tape.
Mhm.
And so because they're intimidated about seeing themselves, they don't want to record because they're like, if it doesn't go well, there's no evidence. Uh,
Right. Yeah, it never happened. If it's not recorded,
yeah.
this was never a thing.
Yeah, yeah, it was never a thing. But if you do record, even if you don't watch it for a year later, and then you're like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." Like because then you can
Yeah.
actually start listening to other things besides just the tapes in your head. You could like listen to, okay, the audience laughed here. Oh, they didn't laugh there. Oh, I rushed that.
Yeah.
Um, where that doesn't flow, maybe I need to change the joke the joke order. So it's really a vital tool if you can sit back and watch it from an observation where you don't have emotions about it, but you're looking at it, you're digesting your set.
Right. Yeah, I think that emotional connection. For me, I don't listen like, if I have a great show, I'm gonna drive home and I'm gonna listen, to the Life Support podcast, or
That's
I
right.
will I'll pull up, or I'll talk to my friends or whatever for the ride home, but I don't listen to it right away
Yeah.
because it's too soon. So I may have just had a great time, and then I'm listening on the way home, and I'm thinking, well, that wasn't as good as I thought it was. Like, or sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes, I think, man, that wasn't good at all. But then I go back and listen to the audio, and I'm like, actually, that was not bad. That was pretty good given, that particular room and
Yeah.
the circumstances. But I think if you're not willing to do that, you're just selling yourself short, because like you said, sometimes, well, this is where the video comes in. For me, I have these giant eyeballs, right? And I say that like I'm a bobblehead. If I became famous and they made a bobblehead out of me, they wouldn't have to change the specs on my, dimensions or whatever, because my head is just a big fat, I look like a human walking bobblehead in my like that's what I see when I look at myself. Okay, so that's where Addie just took control, because I'm like, what am I talking about? Attention deficit. Addie just said bobblehead, and we moved that direction.
Video.
Yes,
You're talking about video.
yes, yes. So in video, sometimes I'll realize, okay, I had a punchline that was funny, but then it was how I did my head or my eyes
Hmm.
that I didn't realize, and it got another laugh.
Yeah.
But if I was just listening, I don't know why it got that second laugh. But when I can see myself, I'm like, oh, okay. So the body, like, oh, that's how I arched, my shoulders, or, the way I did my hands. In my cheerleader routine, I would just do this voice of this girl named Daisy. And then at one point, because when you're a cheerleader, you do these hand motions. And at one point, I just like not consciously went, I'm going to do a cheerleader move. I did her voice and I did like the hands up like a cheerleader, right? The ready, okay, in the V shape.
I have no idea. I'm just over here moving my hands as if I
You
know
were
what I'm
you were
doing.
never a cheerleader, Michelle?
No, I was the
Come
athlete
on.
you were cheering me on.
You're so
So,
tiny. I would have been able to throw you really high in the sky. Problem was
yeah.
I wasn't good at catching people. I could throw them, but
If
I
I was a
couldn't catch.
cheerleader, I would have been the base because I was very,
Yes.
very strong.
Yes.
Now, no, you would crush me.
Yeah, I was the base because I'm 400 foot tall. So, and I was strong, but I wasn't. Again, Addie, the attention deficit took over, and I forgot I threw them. They went so high for so long. It just you know, it
Where'd she
just
go?
fell to the ground.
So
But the video, you can see your body language. Had I only listened to that on audio, I would have been like, what did I do? What made them laugh just then? And I would have
yeah.
totally forgot that, oh, I just did my hand. I just moved my hand like a cheerleader, and it added like a different dimension to the actual bit. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's called an act out, and it actually does add to your comedy bit. So, nicely done.
yes, thank you. But it wasn't a planned act out, is what I'm saying. It wasn't like because I do some act outs, and I've written them, and I know
Mhm.
what I'm going to do. But every once in a while, there's a spontaneous thing that you do.
Yeah.
And so, do you remember talking? We have our sweet friend Deanna Lane, and I
Yes.
remember talking to her after her doing a show, and she realized very quickly that the audience was laughing because of her nervous energy and how she
Yeah.
was doing her body. And then once she like realized she was doing that, she realized they like this is funnier than the material at the moment. Like the her body language and her mannerisms and those kind of things that worked naturally, spontaneously in that moment.
Yeah.
But being able to videotape it, see it, and look back at it, then that's something she could reproduce later, because
Yeah.
it really is a part of who she is and her character. But she
Which
didn't
is
write it out. I'm going to do this act out. I'm going to act nervous. I'm going to do something weird with the mic stand. But then when she realized how she held the mic stand or whatever she did, people were cracking up. And then she leaned into it. She was like, oh, okay, because right now in her journey, she's fairly new. And,
yeah.
these are all new experiences for her. So I don't know. I just say, get over your pride. Like, give yourself a minute. You don't have to listen to it the second you just performed, especially if
Yeah.
it was one that didn't go well. But
Or if you
listen.
think it didn't go well, because sometimes it actually went a lot better than you thought it went, but still, put it on the shelf for a couple weeks if you need to. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, you almost said it. You said and then you moved
Right?
on.
You're
You're
right.
right. Did that hurt?
You wanted to hear that? June Colson, you're
I
right.
always want to hear that. Did that hurt
So
Michelle VanDusen when you
It
had to say
that
I'm
was a
right?
tough one. That was very tough. But thankfully there's no video proof. Oh wait, we're recording this.
Yes, I
Um,
have proof
so
that I was right. I was right. I was right.
my husband has pulled out his phone before on his calendar. He's like, "All right," and he'll start typing in the date and the year. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"What are you doing?" He's like, you just said I was right, and I'm
Yes.
making sure I have proof of this later." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "I can delete that." No,
Yeah, no, I will audio record like we've been doing that. We were going to
yeah,
build a house and we decided not to. So we had this piece of land and we had this dream home we were going to build on, and it was taking forever to get the plans together and whatever. And so we got a kid who graduates from high school next year, and
hmm
we just kind of made this decision that rather than buy a house, or build a house, we'll just buy this house that we found right down the road from the lot. But in the process of like getting our plans together and those kind of things, my husband is extremely intelligent. He's a very patient man generally in life, but when it comes to projects, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, he's frightening. He can't, like, everything goes wrong. We just cleared out the woods the other day. They were using him and my son were using a boat anchor that they were throwing in the air to hook into a dead tree to try to pull it down. To which I say, you're going to end up hitting somebody. Like, what are you guys are going to end up getting hit? And my son's like, oh, I'm not going to, like, I'm going to hit myself in the head with this thing. I go in the house, come back out. The husband threw it. The kid wasn't looking, and he gets clocked in the shoulder by a boat
Sure
anchor
enough.
with hooks on it. Right. I had also told him to at least add some rope to it because you're going to end up getting that thing stuck in a tree and you won't be able to get it out. No, they don't add rope to it, and then they get it stuck in the tree. Then my my shorter husband has a 6'4" teenage boy on his
Wait,
shoulders.
I'm sorry. You're talking about your husband. You're
Yes,
doing, and your son. You're talking, and then you go, and my shorter husband. So there's two of
yes.
them,
Well,
or
there's a
is there
visual.
just
Yeah, my
one?
taller husband. We don't talk about him. That's why my shorter husband keeps coming home at lunch That's why we were delayed today, Michelle. He thinks he's going to catch me with that tall husband. No, why?
So
Why
your
would I
your
want?
husband is shorter than your son, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Still the
So I'm
same
giving
man.
you the visual. So here's this short, muscly man with this tall 6'4" kid on his shoulders, trying to pull the anchor like out of the trees. And
There's
there's
not
just
not enough rope?
drama, and there's no, not enough rope. Go figure. And now there's drama, there's some cursing. Then he cuts a tree down, and the tree falls on his chainsaw, and it's
Oh,
bent in half
no.
as my son
Oh.
comes up out of the woods with the other chainsaw that the blade just jumped off. And I'm like, we don't need to build a house together. This is not what we need to do. So anyway, what does that have to do with anything that we were talking about, Michelle?
I
That was
think
Addie. She took over. Bring
no,
us
I
back
think I
home.
think you're going to take that and put it into a bit, because the whole idea of finding comedy
Yes,
is
there it is.
finding it in the real life episodes.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure when you go to do that and when you write it, um, your your point of view is probably not going to be "I was right, he was wrong." It was probably just the fact of this is how men do things, this is how women do things. It might be the comparison that way,
Yes.
or
Okay, so let's talk about what we were going to talk about today. So when you
yeah,
say that in this moment, I'm just telling you the story. You and I are
yeah.
friends. I sat down, I'm telling you this story. I haven't written punchlines. It's not,
Mhm.
this is truly just a funny situation that I'm sharing with you.
That
And
you were completely right in.
right, but I didn't start yeah, but I didn't start with, "Well, Michelle, do you know the difference between men and women?" Because no one's ever written comedy about that. Right, I didn't go into some bit with you. I'm not having, conversations with you that aren't real conversations. We're just having
Mhm,
real conversations. Just because you're a comedian, and this is what we're talking about today, is that we talked a lot about being yourself on stage, right?
mhm,
Finding
yeah,
your voice and being realistic and being you on stage. But we wanted to talk a little bit today about just being you off stage. Just you,
yeah,
just June Bug Colson, just Michele VanDusen. That's enough. Like that's enough. You don't have to do your bits every time you talk to another comedian.
right,
It's obvious because comedians recognize comedic material and not genuine conversation.
mhm,
Don't you think? And then it's just off-putting. It can be a little exhausting. If I want to work material with you, I'm going to say, "Okay, Michelle, I got this bit. This is what I'm doing. I'm writing this bit. There's,
mhm,
my husband and my son and yada yada yada." Right? I'm going to tell you this is what we're doing and kind of get your permission that like I'm getting your permission to share this material with you and giving you permission to basically critique it, right?
mhm, yeah,
And I've seen more often than I want to. Even like one of the first conferences I went to, I sat down and it was a comedy show and I'm by myself and this person sits down beside me and immediately they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I say, "June." "Oh, where are you from?" And I say, "Kentucky." "Oh, Kentucky." Da, da, da. And they start just doing material in my
wait,
face.
was that me? Was
That
that
was
me
you,
sitting next to you?
Michelle. Okay, so I didn't want to go there.
See, like, I hear what you're saying about
No, it wasn't
how it
you.
could
It
be
wasn't you.
over I thank goodness. I mean, I hear what you're saying about how if someone just sits down and they're, like, on all the time, um, but, like, for me, sometimes it takes a minute or 2 to figure out, because I'm very witty in any
Right,
conversation,
right.
not just so it's one of those things that I just have to realize, okay, this is too much for them. I have to back off. But sometimes if I've had, a couple of Sprites, that sugar is just like,
Right.
oh yeah,
Stop.
yeah. A little Shirley Temple, a little,
You
little
get sugar
cherry
drunk.
sauce in there. Yeah, yes, completely. And it's just like my mouth is like, woo, yeah, we're having a party now. And I'll just go and go and go. And so yes, I know that I can be overbearing in those moments, and I have been in situations where, yeah, there's other comedians because they're new to the game. They're new and they think that's funny and that's funny and that's funny. And because they don't really know who they are yet, they don't know their voice yet, everything they see is funny and they got to comment on it. So
Right.
I think it comes with maturity of just calming down, and just, okay, yeah, it's funny. Go ahead and write it down in your notebook because you should have a
Yes.
notebook with you everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
You write it down. You don't have to tell everybody. Because sometimes, too, in those kind of conversations, um, you know, another comedian could be like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. And then they might just start writing down their own stuff from that same idea.
Right. But I'm talking about just being just a genuine person. And just because
Mm.
you're talking to a comedian
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you have to be funny. And just because you
Yeah.
are a comedian doesn't mean you have to be funny. You know?
Don't, oh my gosh. If you're like, let's say you're just out anywhere, and someone finds out you're a comedian,
Yes.
do you absolutely love or hate the comment, tell me a joke?
Exactly. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying is you don't have to be funny.
yeah.
Like if I said that, that I'm a heart surgeon, well go ahead and do surgery on my chest right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm a
Scalpel.
painter. Oh, you're a painter. Well, why don't you go paint my kitchen? Oh, you're a
Yeah.
comedian. Well, tell me a joke right now. That's not how it works. And I think that um that's what I'm saying when I say you don't have to be funny all the time. You
Yeah.
can just be you and you can set boundaries and you can tell people, hey, I work on material. I'm funny on stage. I feel like I'm funny in conversation, but I'm also just a human being. Like every day of my life is not just giggles. Like I almost
Mm.
stepped on a snake today and I got rained on and my hair and my curling iron broke and I don't feel funny. I feel very
Um,
annoyed and I don't want you in my face telling me to make you laugh like I'm a circus clown. This is not how it works. No, I think, and it's definitely not you that I'm talking about. There's a difference when you're like, I'm sugar high, I'm excited, I'm having a good time.
yeah.
That's me all day long. I'm goofy, the attention deficit kicks in, and this is really me.
Yeah.
But when you're with comedians, it can be really painfully obvious when it's not just you being fun and overzealous. And I'm not saying you, Michelle. I'm saying
Right.
when that comedian is like basically going knock knock, knock
Yeah.
knock, knock knock every time you're talking. You're like, we're not here to do knock knock joke. We just want to know you. I want to know
Yeah.
Michelle. I want to know John. I want to know Bill. I had dinner with somebody one night, and it was a group of comedians, and this one person, everything that everybody said was followed up with a punchline. He would add
Top
this
top
punchline,
one.
and
Yeah.
it never stopped. So
Mhm.
then it kind of became like literally, if someone said my mom was just diagnosed with cancer, he'd be like, "Cancer? You know what happens when a Cancer and a Sagittarius get together? Like what? What? What are we
Yeah.
talking about? We're taught this person just said they have cancer, but it was like I want them to look at me and respect me and be funny, and I'm
Yeah.
saying just just be you,
I
right?
think some of that comes from, again, if you're uncomfortable in your own skin, and you're it comes out of nervousness.
Oh, for
So
sure.
if you're in a room of comedians and you're a new comedian and you recognize some names sitting there, um you get nervous, and so you just have to, it'll be one of those things where you're just trying to prove that you belong, and
Right.
you don't have to prove that you belong.
No, that's what we're talking about today. You don't
Yeah.
if you wanna really, I think the veterans that I've been around or the people that I've heard talk or whatever, if you want their respect, then, being that knock knock, knock knock, knock knock, knock knock person is not gonna make them go, "Oh, this person will be fun to work with." It's like, this person would drive me insane, you know? Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
I
why
don't
I don't
know.
have a lot of jobs. No.
Is that what it is? Michelle. That's not true at all. No, you're witty in the sense of like, if someone's working material, You're so good about, like, seeing different angles, and you're very fast. When I'm writing with people, it might be 10 minutes later where I'm like, "Ah," or I know what's, like, in there, but it doesn't come
Mhm.
out as quick. You're very quick like that. And then in conversation, you are fun in conversation, but you don't you're so little. I was gonna say, you don't, like, plow over people because 'cause they're too tiny for that,
Yes,
but
I have.
you don't plow over the conversation. You don't,
I
like,
have. I seriously have done that in the past
well, maybe
because
you haven't done it to me because I'm
you
maybe
don't make
as
me nervous.
bad or worse than that.
Yeah, you have never made me nervous. I feel very comfortable being me with you. And so and that's why I know, like, immaturity and excitement and trying to prove
Yes.
who you are.
Yeah.
Like when people say, "Oh, you're hiding behind humor," that's those moments when you're trying to one up someone, or you're just trying to one up yourself because you want to feel good about being there because it's a new experience, you have new things happening as all these things are firing. A comedian's brain, we see so many things at one time, and it's, you call her Addie for you're calling it ADD. I think it's all the train tracks are running at the same time, and
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
the station conductor trying to make sure that this track is here, this track is here, this track. And so, you're just like, that's a new comedian not knowing what to do.
Yeah,
And
and that's
and
been my
so
brain my whole life. Like, it's not just comedy, like, my brain has always been just 10,000 trains, but they're not on track. They're
yeah.
so far off track. One's stuck in a tunnel right now. I believe there's
So
one carrying
if
explosives.
So you
Like,
should be really good at math if you have that many train tracks running. So if train A leaves the station at 9:55 and
uh-huh,
train B is full of clowns leaving the station at 3 a.m.,
uh-huh.
at what point, which one gets to the punchline first?
What are we talking about? What?
It was one of those story problems.
Hey, you said something about clowns. So then
Well,
my mind's imagining a train cart just packed with clowns, like a little train car, except for it's a
yeah.
cart. And like when it stops, just clown after clown after clown after, like, I don't know what happens to
No,
the trains
what
or what
happens
time they got.
first is the clown car comes off the train car, and then the clowns disembark from the car. I mean,
Oh,
it's
you're
it's gonna
using
be a
big
double.
words. Disembark. Disembark. We're moving. We're gonna disembark from that part of the conversation. Okay, so here's another thing. What do we have? How many minutes?
About 3.
Oh, dang. Okay. You know what? We're going to come back and do another episode because I want to talk about when people like when they give you unsolicited advice or
Okay, are
there's
you just wanting to do episodes of things I've done wrong?
do
Is
you
this
do
what
that
this
too?
is?
Do you
Oh
do
my
that
gosh.
too? I
I have
asked for
handed
your
out
advice.
unsolicited advice since 1968. Like,
Oh,
that's my
okay.
thing. I will give you unsolicited advice since 1968. You're
Okay,
welcome.
here's the question though. What if you gave me advice and I don't take it? How do
Well,
you take that?
that's on you. I'm I've
But do
got
you stop
wisdom.
giving advice? Is that the way to get you to stop giving advice? Like, you know what? Just don't do what she says, and she'll stop telling you to do stuff.
No, because then I can just be like, "Told you." No.
No, you're right. Most of the time, it probably is. I told that's me with the rope. That's where I was going. That's totally
With
where
the
me and
whole
Addie were
anchor
going.
thing.
Was the whole anchor thing? It was like, whatever. Then you
If you
don't
would
take
have
the advice.
listened.
But the next
Yeah.
thing you know, you're going to have a boat anchor that drops from a tree and hits your son in the shoulder.
It's
And I'll
possible.
be there to say, I told you so. I told
Well,
you
I
so.
I think in Proverbs, the Bible says that wisdom, she calls from the streets. Like, I think she
Oh,
is wisdom. So I think that's why husbands probably should, and children should, listen to their mothers way more.
I've got to memorize more Bible verses. I didn't realize that they could be used against my husband and children. If they taught that in church, I'd be like, wait a minute, I'm going to memorize all these verses if I can use them like that. But isn't there a verse where it says Satan can use Bible verses too? Like, you got to be careful who's giving you the verses. What are you,
Yeah, he
Michelle?
he
Is that a
he
halo
twists
or
them.
horns?
Wow. Wow,
I
June.
don't know. I don't know. You know what? I think that before we get ourselves in trouble,
Before the
we
lightning
should
strikes.
yes, we should go ahead and wrap up this episode. It's
Uh,
been fantastic. If you want to reach out to us, maybe tell us some Bible verses that you think we could use against our husband and children, then you can check us out on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, or you can email those thoughts to what's the email address, Michele VanDusen?
the laughs up at gmail.com.
That's right. The laughs up at gmail.com. That's it for this episode. I am June Colson,
I'm Michele VanDusen.
and this has been
Laugh
Laugh
support.
Support. There it
Am I
is.
supposed to wait till you say it and then I
It
say it
doesn't
too?
matter. It doesn't matter. You did fantastic. Stop overanalyzing.
Yay! I win. um, you forgot to do your whole Jesus and Junebug loves you.
I did.
Oh
my gosh, are you still recording?
I'm still recording. I haven't stopped.
Okay. Well, Michele, I'm glad you offered that piece of advice. Y'all know, see, we don't have a guest, and I've gotten used to giving guest their, So maybe I need to come up with a new one for you. But until then, Jesus and Junebug loves you, and
I love you too.
Little Michele, the Messiah. At least do the hands tell you to take it higher. There, one hand. I got one hand. Thanks for listening, y'all.
I didn't hit end yet.
Oh my gosh.
End.